Welcome to Elevate eCommerce, the podcast where we elevate your e-commerce game. Join our host, Hi Mag, CEO of Eva, as he shares the latest strategies in Amazon, omnichannel, and advertising. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting, Hi's insights and expert interviews will help you thrive in the e-commerce world. Tune in for practical tips and transformative success stories to elevate your business to new heights.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Elevate e-commerce podcast. And today I have a great friend as a guest, and it's really a distinct pleasure to introduce Pasha Knish. I hope I was able to pronounce the last
You
name
got it.
correctly. And, Pasha is running his own agency for a very long time. Also, a couple of private brands. I'm not sure if Pasha has his own brand too in the past, but tell us more about yourself, Pasha, before we go into the questions.
Awesome. Hi, I'm really honored to be here as part of your podcast. And I'll share a little bit about my story. So I think I started selling on Amazon. It was 2011. It was kind of back in the day, about 13, 14 years coming on. So it's very different now. The landscape has changed quite a bit since when I first started. Actually, prior to that, I was selling on eBay. Then we got into Amazon, a couple friends of mine. And then we started just, selling generic products and seeing, wow, this is working quite well. In those days, we were college kids, trying to earn some extra money. We were still living with our families. And then we said, maybe let's put a private label, just come up with a nice, fun logo, stick it on something that we see some market opportunity for. And we did that, and it turned into a seven-figure business in a couple of years. So by the time I was 21, I already had a seven-figure Amazon business. And around that time, I was in my last semester of college, and I said, I kind of don't see the point of finishing this degree. I was in my last semester of doing philosophy, and I was like, I can either become a teacher or keep staying in school and become like a lawyer with this philosophy degree, or I can pursue e-commerce and keep going further into this career. So that's what I did, and then I was the first person in our group to start full time, and then my friends pretty much followed the same. One of them left college, the other one left his corporate job, and then we got an office space in New York, and we just started doing that. And then pretty much after that, I exited from that company and launched my own private brands, and then started doing some freelancing because I was a great operator, great marketer, and I wanted to expand my skill set and meet other people because, being an e-commerce seller can be a little lonely, especially if you're doing it on your own. So I wanted to just like chat with other like-minded people and kind of grow my skill set that way. So that's when I started doing some freelancing. So I was really good with that. And I had my own brand, so I was really, my finger was on the pulse of what was going on Amazon. So I pretty much just started the agency, started hiring and growing that as well. So that has really helped me in my own private brands as well as, helping others to generate and grow. So I've been pretty much on that ever since.
That's great to hear. So not only that you are running an agency today, but you have the experience of running your own brand. Because sometimes I always meet like with people, they don't know even what the Seller Central looks like, but they they are the experts at the same time, and it's not it's kind of easy for people like us to kind of understand the real versus a bit of a marketing story. But I mean, for the customers, it's not that easy. So I always value personally like people who already had their power, dedicated into the business. So, the things change on Amazon every day. And for the last couple of years, it kind of became the whole advertising play, right? I mean, still, there's a lot of things that are important. We'll talk about that too. But advertising plays now the key role, as well as it is the most sophisticated part. So when we meet with any brand owner or like any e-commerce person on it working for a brand, their biggest problem is always like how to fix the advertising. So what is your advertising strategy to start with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's really gotten to the point right now where advertising has to be so refined, especially with the new fees. We're going to talk about that a little bit later with fees, because that plays into profitability, which is so integrated with actually how you advertise. But back in the day, we were just slapping on Google ads and crossing our fingers, and we saw sales coming in. And now we have to be so granular and use so many different tools in order to really be very precise in how we advertise. So, aside from our general kind of campaign structure, which I'll get to, one of the things that we really kind of key on are day parting. So making sure that you're actually spending in the times when people are buying and being able to properly monitor that. Like, that's the type of refinement that we're at, where we're seeing, people during nighttime hours are not really buying. And also because of the midnight reset, Pacific time at 12 o'clock midnight, you get a reset. And so your budgets kind of refresh, and Amazon wants to spend that money. So they're starting to spend all your money right in the middle of the night when nobody's buying it. So then you wake up and half your budget's gone, and you're, cost per clicks are higher because of that, because they're doing it for everybody. Conversion rates are lower. So that's just not efficient. So we have to be granular with that. And then just generally with our campaign structure, I mean, with a new account, we're just, testing the waters. We obviously have tools for keyword research, but we want relevancy, especially now with all of the new updates that Amazon is rolling out, especially with their Rufus and their AI that they're integrating with more semantic-based queries. You want to make sure that you're appearing and doing well on the keywords that you're mostly relevant for, not just going after whatever's like the first thing in Helium 10 that says, oh, your search term with 2 words, some short tail keyword that has like 100,000 monthly searches. You can't just go after that off the bat, because you're never going to make it unless your margins are huge or you have a very large advertising budget with loss in mind, if that's your strategy. But generally, if we want to grow profitably, we want to search for the high relevancy keywords and then build structure around that, test them out. And then once we know what our converting keywords are, then we can start launching video ads and brand banner ads and all kinds of other types of advertising types that make more sense for the brand, that are more expensive, because we already have the data to back it up. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. And then as a second stage to that, we use DSP. And that's definitely like a secret sauce that not every advertising company has access to, and not every seller has access to. That's kind of a gated program. And DSP is super powerful because you can retarget audiences and do so many different things where, if you have a brand that is a consumable and you have different variations of your product, larger sizes or multi-packs or things like that, or just adjacent kind of products, then you can just build audiences and show up even off of Amazon with those products to get them back into the platform and continue that life cycle for the customer and increase your lifetime value. So once we get into DSP, that just kind of changes the whole picture, because even if you're not super profitable in your ACoS with sponsored products, you can actually increase the lifetime value of a customer using DSP. And so then it comes back in a different way. So, there's all these different kind of touch points. And I think all of these things are important to consider when you're doing advertising on Amazon and just for your brand as a whole.
Exactly. So I think just to summarize, like what I really liked that you were talking about, number one, you mentioned the hourly bidding strategies. We are also working very much with Eva AI to make sure that pretty much all our customers are leveraging the hourly bidding, but in a very profitable way, not in the way that Amazon asks, but the way that it is beneficiary to the seller. And then you mentioned the keyword relevancy. That is absolutely very relevant. And finally, the DSP, now very interesting, but we still meet with a lot of brands that are doing more than $1 million annually, maybe 10 million, and they are still not leveraging DSP at all, meaning that they are missing all these audiences, especially the consumables like repeat purchase behavior. You mentioned the lifetime value. These are all very much the key differentiators that we also emphasize when we do advertising. So thank you for mentioning all. And the other thing is, like, this advertising world, everything, I don't want to say everything is changing that much, but there's always new introductions, new ideas, new techniques. what innovative advertising techniques that you have leveraged in the last few months, maybe maybe for inside the Amazon or maybe outside the Amazon, that delivered some better outcomes for you?
Yeah, I would say that we're really leaning a lot on the DSP side, just because I see a lot more innovation from Amazon coming out there. Amazing things like, you can get Alexa to advertise your product for you. So somebody's in their kitchen and, they need something. And so they're asking Alexa, and you can actually target that in DSP. That's pretty amazing. Also, we're experimenting a little bit with the TV ads. That's something, I went into Amazon, watch at night some Prime Video, right? Watch a movie, and all of a sudden it's like now there's these ads showing up, and you have to spend more money to not see the ads, or you can look at the ads, and then Amazon sellers are advertising in that placement. But that's like a totally different kind of ball game because, advertising for TV, I tried some Hulu ads in the past. It's very different. It's kind of brand awareness. You can maybe throw on a QR code over there. So somebody's with their, so everyone sits on the couch with their phone. So something comes up a couple times and second, third round, you're like, okay, maybe I'll check it out. QR code, open up the link on your phone on Amazon. So it's a different type of advertising. But there's all these different things that they're kind of rolling out. And in terms of external marketing, I think that's also super important because it's really part of your presence as a digital company. Amazon is one platform, but you definitely want to at least experiment and see what kind of results you get and compare it against your Amazon results on Google and Facebook. And, TikTok Shop is really hot. Personally, with my brands, I'm having a hard time getting into TikTok Shop because of just the application process is not going through, and customer support's really difficult. But just the TikTok platform as a whole, and getting creators and doing Spark ads to promote their content on their page. So just approaching it in this sort of omni-channel way, I think is an important mindset to have where you're not just relying on Amazon. As much as I love Amazon, so much of my career has been based on Amazon. I also recognize that you can't just stay in that playing field. You kind of have to expand your horizons too. So Amazon is great because you have authentic reviews, you have all the content there, people are comfortable with it, but they're also finding out about your product elsewhere and then coming on to see it in many cases.
Absolutely. So for the last 6 months, we are investing a lot into TikTok relationship and TikTok shop. And we see a great benefit because at the end of the day, isn't it also a kind of an ROI comparison? Of course, it's a totally different audience. The ROI is much better. The fees are smaller. So it's kind of not supplementary, because sometimes the way I kind of look at it is like, when somebody comes with, I want to do Walmart, I say, great, it's supplementary to Amazon. And then I say, by the way, there is also the complementary piece, which is TikTok. And we see the value there. The other thing you mentioned, Amazon ads on video, on TV. One of our customers, like I was not even aware of that, but obviously I'm searching our customers, agents all the time and checking, what's going on. But I was not aware that we are doing the video ads, but the customer also pays for DSP. And then the next thing was I was watching this new series called Power of the Rings or something like that. Power of the Rings, which is like the next
Lord of the
level
Rings,
of
right?
Lord of the Rings, exactly. Yeah, it's very famous now on the Amazon Prime. And immediately this coffee brand show up. Now that was really fascinating. Like, hey, we are doing TV ads as a company, and this is the coffee brand. The only thing that, Pasha, I was thinking is like, now I want to watch, I'm waiting for this for 2 years now, this coffee brand. But the point is like, to act on a TV, I was thinking about that, like, what is the best way now? Like, because you mentioned the QR code, but I want to watch my, my series, right? I don't want to deal with now buying coffee, but it was a great brand awareness. But maybe I was already aware, right? Because it's the brand that we work with. But I'm still thinking about it. Maybe there is a better way to, from there, just to click and buy, or maybe, and then, I was checking like Hulu ads and different type of traditional marketing, and I had some ideas from them, like what should be interesting, like call this number, because that's very different type of an audience too, right? Like maybe they will be more happy just to have an 800 number that they can call or something like that. So there is a lot to discuss there, but thanks for mentioning this. But it's not always about advertising. Advertising is very important, but there are other factors that are impacting advertising, and they are not advertising at all. So what is your view about that? Like, what affects advertising that's not advertising?
Well, I think that probably most people, when you ask that question, are going to say conversion rate, which means content. So how well are you showing up? Do people understand your product, your unique selling points? Is your content on point for what the actual product is? What is the value proposition, and how do you convert that in a way for people to come onto the listing and not want to go to somebody else's page? Or when they do a comparison, yours is coming up as efficient as possible. So so there's a couple of points here. I think that with some of these new updates, I mentioned, the AI thing in Rufus. I mean, I had a talk actually yesterday on my podcast with Ritu Java, and she did a presentation about this and really opened my eyes to how fast this is coming and how important content is, because it is basically someone's asking a question, and based on that, it's answering and doing a full scan of your listing, all the competitors, and a bunch of information outside of Amazon to give them the most accurate result possible for what they're looking for based on their user performance and history and kind of what their buying patterns are. So I say that because you have to be so on point and so relevant and fill out as much detail as possible, both on the front end and the back end. There's all this information in the back end that people are not filling out, all these parameters that they're asking for each subcategory is a different list of sub parameters. So you have to make sure as much detail is there, because as this AI becomes rolled out further and further, it's going to be very important that that information is there. Otherwise, it's not going to pick it up as the primary choice for you or for the customer. So aside from the AI portion, I mean, just having beautiful hero image, infographics, promotional video, A plus with the brand story, which means that it can become a premium A plus listing, having a good storefront that properly outlines all of the different options within your store. I mean, all of that is key, because people are not walking into a supermarket and picking it up off the shelf and just like playing with the thing. It's like that's the only way they can make a decision. So that's going to be super important. The other factor is price. So what I've observed through the years selling on Amazon is, years back, it was a price war. People were looking for a good deal. Now, I think that with a lot of development in e-commerce in general, that has changed. So Temu and Shein and all these other kind of Chinese marketplaces have come in, and people are starting to go over there when they want cheap Chinese products. So Amazon is left with the other kind of option that maybe people are going there for discovering new brands and maybe trying something that's higher quality, that's not from China or is from China, but it's, a premium kind of product. So these are generalizations, but what I'm seeing is that on Amazon, it's now possible to build a brand as a premium selection, meaning you don't have to be the lowest priced. You can be the best priced in your tier, meaning you can be an option that is, let's say, 30% more, but it's clear why it's 30% more. And if you do that well with the content, then people can justify the cost. And so it's possible to have a premium brand. I mean, one of my brands is a shampoo company. We sell a 9-ounce shampoo for $24. So we're significantly more expensive than everybody else, but we're still able to grow that company. And that's because we're able to demonstrate, okay, this is a product that doesn't have preservatives, it doesn't have X, Y, and Z. And so people are like, oh, okay, let me try it out. And then they like it, and we have a gallon size that's 3 times cheaper per ounce. So then that's the upsell. We can, use DSP for that and so on. So I think it's all these factors, it's like the advertising, the price, the content, and then, what kind of fees, like if you can control your cost of goods, if you can control your inbound fees, your long-term storage fees, if you can diversify your 3PL situation, don't send everything into Amazon if you can't sell it fast enough. Have someone decide in your 3PL in the US or whatever marketplace you're selling in, that's probably going to be cheaper to hold long term, and then just, give small amounts into Amazon as you need it. So that's a much more effective way to save. So all of that kind of comes into play when it comes to Amazon. Like it's all of these different levers that you need to know how to pull in order to maximize how much profit you can make, how many sales you can make, and so on. Because you can be making tons of revenue, but if you're losing money every month, you're just throwing away your product and making yourself crazy. So it's not worth it.
Absolutely, yeah. So 2 points that I really, really liked. One, we do a lot with dynamic pricing for almost the last 4 years. We provide a dynamic pricing algorithm based on AI in order to find the right price. Exactly as you said, when we started, it was pretty much like a price war discussion, but right now it's very different. The discussion is the sensitivity to price. For example, it's not about what the competitor's shampoo price is, but maybe instead of $24, if it is $22, and maybe you will get, let's say, 25% more sales, but maybe it's $21, there is no change. So then
Right.
what if, so which means that the price sensitivity or insensitivity changes by changing the price, but it's there is an interval of that change, and finding it can maximize your profit. The second thing you mentioned about 3PL, like a lot of companies ask us, like, why do you have 3PL? Because there is no software company, to be honest with you, with 3PL at the same time. And I mean, there is a historical reason for that, but just because, like you are, my partner and I, we were selling on Amazon, and we needed the 3PL. And then because the business boomed, and then we ended up with two 3PLs. And it's so important to optimize the 3PL and the replenishment forecasting on Amazon, because it can eliminate pretty much completely all this extra long-term storage fees if you are doing a great job with replenishment. And a lot of sellers, they just send everything and then try to liquidate. They pay the storage fees. We have seen 80% to 90% of the inventories are not optimized. Now, with all your experience, maybe you can also share with us a case study, Pasha, which maybe you know about a brand that you owned or you managed. We would be glad with that.
Sure. So we were working with this one company that sells garden sprays, and they came to us. I think we've been working with them for a long time. They were really just kind of starting out doing some amount. I can't remember how much they were doing per month, let's say 20K. Um, and they were just like, we're struggling. We need some help. And basically, year over year, we were dealing with a lot of cases. We actually checked, and in the last 2 years, we've opened 1,000 cases for them. So seller support, this is something that not a lot of people coming into the Amazon world really know about, is sometimes you run into so many issues and you have to open up so many cases to get these things resolved because it's like a simple catalog issue. And then you have to go to SaaS core and get a representative. And anyhow, aside from the cases and dealing with their issues, they are a company that is exempt from pesticides and from all of these types of regulations because of the ingredients, but they are technically, this type of spray where it's like an insecticide and a fungicide and fertilizer spray. So they were, everybody had the pesticide issue, even, metal spatulas were getting flagged as pesticides. So imagine an actual pesticide that's a natural one. So we have to prove the exemption. So we got over that. That's something we deal with consistently. Then also we got over buy box issues with them, where they had Lowe's and Home Depot selling their product, and sometimes they were trying to flush out inventory, so the price would drop 50%, and boom, you're kicked out of your own buy box. You can't advertise. So dealing with these kinds of issues, that's where all the cases came in. But over the years, we've been split testing their content, just making those kind of minimal adjustments, getting ready for their peak season, launching new products. They're always in research and development. We were able to take off that load from them on the Amazon side, so they can just really focus on that research and development and build great products that we can roll out with them together. And we were able to dial in the content, split test it, continuously optimize that. And then it was just a matter of advertising, consistently coming up and researching with new products, new keywords that make sense for their product. So, for example, if we see that their product is being compared to another ingredient on the market, XYZ oil, So then we'll be like better than XYZ oil, right? We'll put it on the content, we'll put it on the ads. So it's just a lot of this kind of testing and testing and testing, and over years of refinement and improvement, adding the DSP and doing these cases and making sure that there's no issues. We've seen huge growth in that account. So year one, they were doing 6 figures. Then the second year, they were already at a 7-figure level. The following year, we doubled that. The following year, I think this year we're headed towards maybe another 70% growth from last year. We already passed at this point what they did last year, and we're still not even in fourth quarter. So yeah, I mean that's a huge success for me. I of course, at the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about what makes a good, entrepreneur, and it's somebody with a lot of experience who knows what Seller Central looks like. And I'll be honest, I along my way of success, I've seen probably more failure. There's brands that don't make it, and sometimes it's our fault as as an agency. And I'm even talking about my own brands too. I've had brands that I've launched, spent maybe 2, 3 years in product development, did everything perfectly. Marketing was beautiful. The reviews came in 4.8, 4.7 stars. I said, oh my God, it's amazing. It's happening. And then something goes wrong, and then the business dies. And so in some cases, it's somebody files a patent for a similar design to your product. And then they're like, you want to fight it? Go to Supreme Court, get a lawyer, spend all this money. And you say to yourself, is it worth it for a new product? Probably not for most people who wants to spend 100,000, unless you've already invested $1 million, maybe it's worth it, but it wasn't the case for me. In other cases, it was issues with the 3PL or issues with Amazon or issues with certification or whatever it is, roadblocks. So overcoming those challenges have given me a lot of experience. So then when I'm able to kind of see a pattern that I've experienced in the past in my own life, in my own brands, in the companies that we work with, it's the same story where I can say, okay, I've seen this before, let's pivot this direction or let's try that. And so, that's just how we learn and grow. But I've had many cases like the one I mentioned with this garden spray company in different categories. It's basically the same process. The reason I love Amazon so much is because it's very formatted in that kind of way where that there's a formula, there's a certain way that Amazon likes to see pictures and descriptions and advertising styles. So we just rinse and repeat those strategies. And every brand, of course, is different, but the same kind of mindsets really apply. So we just keep adapting and growing.
Makes a lot of sense. And thanks for not only sharing the success story, but also some failures. Because as you said, an entrepreneur learns more from the failures because the successes may also happen as a coincidence, but sustainable, repeatable success stories, there is always failures behind them too. So thanks for that. I'm just coming into one of my favorite questions, as I worked with AI for the last almost 24 years now. And I'm very much enjoying that AI, like you mentioned, Rufus, is taking more and more weight. And it's just in the beginning, as you know. I mean, probably next year, same time, we'll be talking about very different type of AI tools. So my question is like, what role does AI play in your business, not just specific to advertising, but how do you leverage AI today to manage your brands or the customers' brands?
That's a good question. So I think most people will say, GPT to get some ideas for product design, or maybe, we can talk about different AI tools or, machine learning tools for PPC that kind of crunch a lot of numbers together. I think that AI has really kind of existed in the Amazon space far before that term really became popular. And all that really meant was systems that can just learn over machine learning, basically. I think there's a distinction between true AI and machine learning. And I think most of what we're seeing up until now with this like kind of Rufus stuff is machine learning, things that monitor patterns over time. But something that I've been actually, I haven't kind of released this information publicly yet, but I'm in talks with a company called DeepM, and we're potentially looking at integrating their solution. We've been testing with them. DeepM is basically, it's owned by the people who were one of the guys who founded Canopy, a very well-known agency in our space. Brian Johnson, and I mean, what they're doing is pretty incredible. So DeepM basically is able to take data points from your subcategory and crunch, I don't know, millions of data points about your listing, about all of the reports that Amazon can potentially give you, like anything. Or they take all of that information, and then they also look at your competitors, and they take all of that information and basically spin it into a report that, as simple as possible, I mean, it's still technical even when we say it's simple. It's simplified from all those data points, but it's still very technical. Those are actionable items that you can take to improve your advertising, to improve your pricing, to improve all of the different aspects. So basically what they've done is reverse engineer the A9 algorithm and given you actionable items that you can take in order to basically get ahead of your competitors. And so we've been testing that with one of our brands and seeing good results, and just speaking with their team about, kind of like the engineering behind how that works. And we've seen that as like a super powerful tool that we're looking to integrate into our agency so we can further, help our brands to really get ahead by actually leveraging true AI in their Amazon sales.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, anything about AI, I really love, although at the same time, I think that it may bring the end of the world. So I'm trying to be both optimistic and a little bit pessimistic about the future, not for everybody, but at the end of the day, some of the jobs will go into AI and it will not come back. So in the history of the human, always there was a change, like one job kind of fades away and another one appears. But with AI, a lot of jobs will just go into the robots, which they are going to become important in the next 3 years, not now, but around 27, 28. We will see hundreds and probably thousands of robots coming in. And then there is AI, which is already expanding geometrically. So the kind of advancement is really inspiring. So maybe one day the robot will just buy from Amazon what you need at home. So which means that now you need to deal with the robot's preference rather than rather than even whatever technique you use, because the robot doesn't look at the first page, right? Like it will just look into all the pages and find the best one, without going into ranking.
Like I see these new bots that Tesla's working on.
Right.
And so for whatever, 30K, like the cost of like one of their cheaper Tesla models, you can get basically a butler that lives in your house with you, right?
Yeah.
And is going to be definitely GPT powered or whatever AI language model they're going to choose. And then it's going to, let's say, go into your cabinet and say, oh, we're out of paper towels.
Exactly.
It's connected to your Amazon account, connected to your credit card, order the paper towels, or probably have it on subscribe and save anyway. Then a robot will come and deliver to your door. Your butler is going to come and put it back into your cabinet. So basically, you can just have like this auto replenishment of physical items in your home without even having to think about it. So from that perspective, very cool.
Very cool.
At the same time, very scary.
Very scary, because who is this robot really replacing? A lot of jobs. I mean, a lot of things. Like, I mean, we're talking about every single robot is replacing one person at the end of the day, because otherwise it doesn't justify to pay 30K. Like if I'm paying 30K, which means that I'm replacing something with that 30K. And right. Who is that person that I'm paying already? I mean, it should be a person. Anyways, that part is scary. I don't know, but it is. So I hope that, it seems like either you're going to own the robots or, you will not have the job, unfortunately, like there is something like that. So, but I mean, it's a kind of a philosophical question, but I'm sure that if we talk about it in a couple of years, we're going to have a different perspective.
That's true.
Maybe last two things. One, I would like to ask you about the profits. Like, what is your strategy to increase the profits? Because you mentioned about the fees. Also, the CPCs are always going higher. It's not like a couple of years back when you just find the most relevant keyword and search and do your sponsor product ad and then let the money flow. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's very tough on Amazon to be profitable. So what's your profit? What's your strategy to increase the profits on Amazon?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a combination of all the things that we mentioned, mostly on the side of price mixed with advertising, mixed with fees. I think the most important thing that people are missing, because everybody knows that they have to advertise. Everybody, for the most part, hopefully, is using some kind of P&L tool to monitor what's going on in their account. Surprisingly, not even big sellers don't do that, which is like they're relying on an accountant who doesn't understand Amazon or maybe missing things that are new to put that together. Meanwhile, there's just something you can just hook into and it gives you really accurate numbers. But I would say understanding these new fees that are rolling out. So, for example, Q4, the fees for storage are 3 times at least higher than normal than the rest of the year. People don't know that, and then they're like, "What's going on? I thought I was making all these sales this quarter, but I'm making less money." Yeah, that's why. So that's one thing. Inbound placement fees. I just had a situation actually yesterday. I was sending in a pallet of inventory for one of my brands, and it was like, inbound placement fee because we're sending in one pallet where it's on a pallet in the warehouse. Amazon wants us to split it into 5 locations. And so they're saying to do that on my behalf, I send them the pallet, they break it down and split it up. It's going to cost this amount. So I said, okay, guys, at the warehouse, how much is it going to cost for the labor, for the repacking, for the extra, whatever, cartons or wooden, shelves that they need to stack the pallets on? How much is all that going to cost? And I compared and I saw that actually it's just cheaper to get the guys at the warehouse to do it than to get Amazon to do it. And probably 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the case. That whatever, because Amazon's adding on their percent on top of actually paying their labor. So, understanding the inbound placement fees and how to optimize for that and just trying to go with the options that are cheaper, even if it is a little bit more of a hassle on your side. What else is there? There's low inventory fee now. So there's long-term storage fee and there's low inventory fee. So you have to understand like, okay, what is my account saying? Am I dipping into this low inventory and how much am I paying? Am I overstocking and not able to sell fast enough? Well, what's the reason why? Can I increase the sales or do I just have to send less in for this period? Could be due to seasonality or whatever. Another one is return rates. Now, if you pass a certain return rate threshold, it's different for every category. You're getting charged per item for those returns. In addition to actually having to refund the customer, Amazon is now going to charge you because they're dealing with all these returns. It's also costing them. So managing returns. So what does that mean? Look at the reviews. Look why people are returning it. Oh, it's leaking. Maybe you should fix your seal. Things like that. So that's all going to contribute to how much profit you're taking home at the end of the day. And these are simple things, but it just takes a little bit of knowledge. It takes a little bit of attention and just, keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on the platform. And then, of course, we mentioned all the other aspects like pricing and optimizing for price, using repricing tools potentially. Subscribe and save is amazing. DSP is amazing for lifetime customer value. So all of these kind of repeat, if you can upsell, if you can get them on a subscription, even with a discount, over time, it really pays off. So all of these things, they all contribute to you taking home more profit and, healthy margin, I would say. Different people see different things, but I'd say if you're taking home 20 to 40% margin after everything on Amazon, you're doing very well. So
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
40%. That's cool.
that's wonderful. Yeah, we have clients doing that, and I'm kind of amazed, but they're able to do it. So why not? And they're willing to give up revenue for that profit. And I would do the same.
Yeah, that's a very important point, right? Some of the brands just spend money all the time on advertising, and maybe they shouldn't be doing that, right? They're already organically ranking. Maybe they're even cannibalizing their organic ranking by putting more money into advertising. So it's important to know when to maybe not stop, but reduce the advertising spend. It's important to know all this simple, you mentioned simple fees, but it's like a video game now. There are so many of these fees. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like you want to sell less inventory, then you pay low inventory, then you spend, you send more inventory, then you have the long storage fee. To optimize on that is extremely important and one of the biggest challenges that we are trying to solve on Eva. But Pasha, I mean, I'm really very, very happy, like all the nice things that you mentioned. I mean, great hacks already you mentioned about how to run the Amazon business. But I would be very happy as a final question or a final request to hear from you an e-commerce hack that the Amazon sellers or e-commerce sellers can hear, and maybe they can just implement easily if you have something like that.
Absolutely. So there's one hack that I really, really like, and I've tested this a bunch of times. So for the most part, it works. Sometimes you have to open a case to get it pushed through, but I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, this should work. So let's say you're launching a brand new product on Amazon and you have 5 different variations. They're color variations of whatever, a bottle, right? Water bottle, because I'm looking at my water bottle. So you have, blue, pink, purple, white, yellow, right? And you want to do the Vine program to get your initial reviews. So you give away 30 and you get 30 reviews. Actually, we all know that that's not true. Not everybody leaves the review. So, what we're going to call it 30 for this example. So most people, what they do if they want to have all these 5 variations, they'll launch the listings and they'll make the parent-child variation family, and then they'll upload it to Vine. What happens is they say, oh, it's only one enrollment per family. So what you can do is you enroll the 5 variations as standalone SKUs, and then Amazon will allow you to enroll all 5 of them. Once they've been enrolled and claimed, then you can merge them together, and you'll see now you actually have 150 reviews coming onto your listing, not 30. So that is a much better launch strategy because you're able to launch with a whole bunch of reviews, and you look at your listing that's been around forever. Because as we know, getting reviews is very hard right now. So you can do this pretty much with any number of variations as you want, even 10, if your category allows it. So imagine, you're launching a new product with 10 variations and it's starting with 300 reviews. I think that's fantastic. So yeah, it's simple, but that's my hack.
Yeah, I love it very much. Like, I need to check back with our guys if they really use this, because that makes a lot of sense. Especially as you said, I mean, how many people really leave reviews? Maybe 1 to 1.5% of the purchases. And if you start with 300 reviews after a month or so, then you're already pretty advanced state, then
Yeah.
your advertising will work much better.
That's
Your
right.
price can be reasonable. You have a competitive edge. So thank you very much for that hack, and also being a guest on the Elevate e-commerce podcast. And thanks, Pasha, for coming. So let's be in touch, and hopefully we'll see you again in the podcast.
Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate it. Hi. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.